Welcome to Comics with Dan. Today I'm going to review Hobtown Mystery Stories, The Missing Men. I have to admit, I enjoyed this way more than I thought I was going to. I was never really a big Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys type of person when I was a kid, and that's kind of what comparisons this drew. But the only reason I put it down when I started reading it was so I could get the kids to bed, and then I ended up staying up late and finished the whole thing in one night. It was a really good story with some great art. So Hobtown Mystery Stories, this particular chapter of it was actually originally released by Conundrum Press as a black and white story. Now, this version has been colored and re-released by Oni Press. So I think that the color does add a good bit to it, and we'll get to that in the colors part of the review. I was on this story like glue. I had to know what happened next. It was a textbook page turner. I liked that Kris Bertin really didn't go straight linear with the storytelling either. There were a lot of times where there were cliffhangers at the end of one chapter, and instead of immediately following up with that cliffhanger in the next chapter, he sort of skipped over the events of what happened immediately after the cliffhanger, and then sort of took the reader back through what had happened. It was a really unique way of going about it, and I appreciated it because he addressed the cliffhangers that were coming about, but he didn't just immediately pick up where he had left off. It added sort of a unique twist on it. So I don't live in Canada, but I do live in a small town, and I thought that the sort of small town aesthetic that this book captured was really spot on. There were a lot of, snapshots of the town itself, and as opposed to, full page spreads or double page spreads of these snapshots, they were contained to a single page. And sort of boxed into one panel with a large white border around the outside. And I kind of thought that added a little bit to it. It made it kind of feel like I was looking at a picture of the town, like someone had taken a photograph. One area of the story that I think could have used some improvement was character development. It felt like there were several points of the story that we had progressed through, particularly early on in the book, that would have really benefited from having the characters a little more fleshed out, so we could know, whether or not the way that they're acting in response to what's happening is normal, not normal, sort of what to expect. The extent of the type of character development we get is who I would consider to be the main character, Dana, is we get the impression that she is rich and that she doesn't always communicate well with her friends, and we don't get a whole lot of background outside of that, how that affected her growing up, any of that stuff. But I just think that there were a lot of instances where I would have appreciated a little bit more backstory on the characters themselves, as opposed to sort of rocketing through the story a bit. The way I look at it is that, there are a few reasons that you might pick up another book following reading another book. And that would be, you might pick up a book because you like certain characters. You might pick up a book because you like the creative team. And what I would say here is that I don't know that I would necessarily pick up another book with these characters just because these characters are in it. But I would definitely pick up another book by this creative team because the creative team is doing it. And to me, that means that the story was well done, but that the characters weren't necessarily fleshed out as much as they could have been. Certain aspects of the mystery were easy to follow, particularly at the beginning of the book, which was really appreciated. The further you get into the book, the more difficult things are to follow, the exact reasoning behind things. But I think overall, things kind of get buttoned up and pulled to a close nicely. There are certain aspects of the book that remain unexplained. I'll leave this review spoiler free so that you can all go read it. But there were certain aspects that I had questions about, and they didn't exactly get answered, but it didn't ruin the experience or really negatively impact the story. It was more of just kind of like I kind of wonder what happened with that. So the dialogue in the story is really done well. Bertin really did a good job of, making the dialogue feel very natural and normal, which can be a little difficult when you're dealing with teenage characters. It definitely did not feel like a Disney Channel original movie, which I know can happen a lot of times whenever you're dealing with books that have teenage characters as the main players. I really liked the art in this book. The line work was impeccable, and I really loved the use of hatching and cross-hatching and the shading. It was done absolutely perfectly. So the art had a really similar feel to Underwater Welder by Jeff Lemire. Not necessarily in the sense that it looked the same, but it had that sort of similar feeling, that same aesthetic to it. Almost to the point where initially I was surprised that this wasn't in black and white, and then subsequently I was not surprised to find that it had originally been published in black and white. So with art styles like this and Underwater Welder, I often find it difficult to distinguish characters from each other. But I think that Alex Forbes does a really good job of making these characters really distinct and making them their own. I did enjoy the coloring that was added to the book, but that being said, I do think I really would have liked the black and white version of this. There were a lot of instances where the color was used appropriately to sort of emphasize certain points of the stories where, more ominous things happening being darker, and when things are a little more lighthearted, the color palette that's used is a little lighter. The lettering was pretty well done. I do feel oftentimes that indie books can kind of let lettering get lost in the shuffle. I don't think there was anything here that really blew me away, but there were some instances of creative lettering, which I enjoyed. I am actually not sure who the letterer was in this. They weren't credited in the book, so I'd be interested to know who that is. Overall, this book is as good as any other mystery story you'll find on the shelves. $25 for 300 pages is much better than any big two book that you're really getting out there, where a lot of those are less than 150 pages and are going for $18, which is kind of a huge difference there. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was really just enjoyable to read, and I'm excited to get a copy myself. It was awesome, and if you enjoy mystery stories, absolutely pick it up. Hobtown Mystery Stories Volume 1, The Missing Men, comes out this Wednesday, May 22nd, so check your local comic store for it. Make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe, and check out these other videos here on the screen, and thanks for watching.